Hey everyone, Safety Simon here. Welcome back for another episode of Safety Simon Says. Today I wanted to talk to you about being an industrial athlete and 5 things that you and I can do to be an industrial athlete in our workplaces. So let's start off with what is an industrial athlete? Well, an industrial athlete is someone who is prepared for their workday, basically. So if you think about the correlation between a professional athlete and somebody at the workplace, that's what we're looking to try and talk about today. So if you think of a professional athlete, what do they do to get ready for their next game or sporting event or practice? Well, number one, they stretch. Stretching is really uh, an important part of the day, and we'll talk a little bit more about each of these things as we go through it. The next thing that we're going to talk about is hydration. And going quickly along with that is proper nutrition or eating the right things. Followed up by rest and recovery is number 4. And number 5 is stress management. All 5 of those things are really crucial for an athlete as they're getting ready and they're preparing in every way to do their very best at their next game. And so, us in the workplace, we have the same things that we need to be aware of, that we need to be focused on. And so, we need to be working on how do we incorporate those 5 things into getting ready for our workday. So, let's start with the first one, stretching. Stretch and flex, or doing some stretches at the beginning of your shift, is a really important thing to consider. It's going to help us get limber, help those muscles get stretched out. Now, there's a lot of different thinking in the safety and in the medical community about what type of stretching is the best. I know a lot of times at workplaces you've done static stretching, and static stretching is basically where you're holding one stretch. So you're doing your arms across and you're holding that for 10 or 15 seconds. And then you're going on to the next one and you're doing this one for 10 or 15 seconds. And then you're doing your legs and your back. And so that's a really great way to start off. But dynamic stretching is really what everyone is talking about doing now. And dynamic stretching is that way where you're able to do movements, a series of movements that is going to actively stretch out all of those different muscle groups in a really natural way for your body. So, regardless of what you choose to do or what you're able to implement in your program, stretching is really important. Now, there's a couple of different times of day that I recommend that you do stretches if you're working. I recommend that you do it at the beginning of your shift. That helps you prepare for your workday, getting ready for that first part of your day at work. I also recommend it after your lunch break because after you've taken a break, it is important that you get your body warmed up and limber again, especially if you are in a physically demanding job. And we'll talk more about rest a little bit later on. The next time that I recommend doing some stretching or some active movements is at the end of your workday. Now, at the end of your workday, you have already done the work, but sometimes you're feeling really tired. And so, stretching not only helps you get ready for the workday, it also helps you decompress and get ready to rest. And so, stretching can actually give you that last little boost of energy that you need that'll help you to be able to stay alert and active on the way home, especially if you're driving. So that's really important. So stretching is really a huge component of preparing for the workday. Now let's talk about the next thing, which is hydration. So with hydration, we're wanting to make sure that we've got enough liquids in our body and that it continues to come in throughout the workday. So what I recommend is to have a few sips of water every 10 or 15 minutes. And that's going to help really ensure that your body gets used to having lots of water on board and you're not going to be going to the washroom all the time. So that's also a big deal, is making sure that we're able to be effective while we're at work. But hydration is a really important part of that day. Your body can do a really good job of keeping you cool as long as it has enough water to keep itself hydrated, because then your body isn't stressing over whether it has enough water to get through the rest of the day. It's just worrying about other things like keeping your body cool. So hydration really is key. Basically, as soon as you start to feel that your mouth is a little bit dry, you're already starting to get dehydrated. So make sure you take advantage of water and you're drinking it often throughout the day. I remember I was doing orientation for a new group of employees that were starting in the workplace that day, and one of them said that they had been doing some landscaping. Awesome, good, hard work, physical labor. But one thing that they were very proud of is the fact that they had never had a bathroom break one shift. And I said, that's not a good thing. We actually need to um, think about it in a different way because staying hydrated is so important. And when you're not using the washroom, that means you are at the point of such dehydration that it is not healthy for you. All right, so we've talked about stretching, we've talked about hydration. The next thing we're going to talk about is nutrition or the fuel that you need in your body. So, food is really important. You need to have protein and carbs and all of those things that are going to help you have the energy that you need to be able to get through the workday. But the thing is, you want to make sure that you're pacing that out throughout your day. So, a few examples of that. If you're on the road all day, you may want to have more frequent lighter snacks like half a sandwich while you're stopped at one of your stops if you're driving all the time. Or if you're working on a production floor on a construction site, every time you have a break, you're actively eating something that is going to be nutritious and fuel for your body. And so having those lighter, more frequent meals throughout the day is really what's going to set you up for success, not only in continuing to ensure that you have fuel coming into your body, but also to the point where your body isn't going to shut down other systems because it now has to digest a big meal. So larger, hot meals are not as good or not as effective as having smaller, more frequent meals throughout the day. So having a few carrot sticks or a piece of fruit or having half a sandwich or a protein bar or something like that, those are better options more frequently throughout the day as much as you can manage it. All right, so we've talked about stretching, we've talked about hydration, and we've talked about fuel. Number 4 is rest and recovery. Now, this is a really important part of your body, and we already touched about the rest part, or touched on the rest part, pardon me, a little bit earlier on uh, in this podcast about resting frequently throughout the day, especially if it's hot outside. There are certain regulations that are in place by compensation boards and safety boards where they say you have to take a break where you go away from hot areas. Um, so a good example of that is working in the kitchen environment where you're working around grills or fryers or ovens, and you need to step away from that for a minute or two to cool your body down. So rest breaks help with not only keeping you cool, but with giving you that rest so that your body can recover and get back to being able to continue on with work. The other part of rest is getting enough sleep at night. We won't talk too much about that, but it is important that you have a good cadence of a good nighttime ritual where, you brush your teeth, you read in bed, you have a tea, or whatever those options are for you that help you relax and calm your body so that you can get a good night's sleep. And there's different recommendations, and it depends on several other factors as well, how much sleep you actually need, but make sure that you're getting enough rest for your body. And because when you're resting, your body is actually recovering. And so your body is needing that not only for the rest, but for the recovery and replenishment of nutrients and other things in your body. Finally, number 5 is stress management. Now, this is a newer one to the game, but it's something that we've always had in the back of our heads. It's always been something that we've been worried about, but it's something that we're just starting to talk more and more about in the safety realm, and that is stress management. Stress is something that can really negatively affect or impact our ability to make good decisions, to do good work. It also affects our ability to rest, and it allows us, or it affects our ability to disconnect from work, especially if your work or your stress is work related. So stress management is also really important to make sure that we are able to decompress, and that you're able to take that time to do whatever you need to do, whether it be throughout the day, taking a break and doing some deep breathing, whether it means that you need to take a quick 3-minute walk outside after a stressful call, or whether that means that you need to spend a couple minutes in the car before you walk in and are working on your personal life, whether it be with your family or your friends or your roommates, whatever that situation may be. So you may need some ways that you can, or some tools to decompress so that you're not as stressed, because that is also critical. So I hope that these 5 things were really helpful to you, learning about being an industrial athlete in the workplace. Remember, number 1 is stretching. Number 2, hydration. Number 3 is fuel. Number 4 is rest and recovery. And number 5 is stress management. So take these 5 tips away, and I encourage you to find ways that you can implement positive ways to work through and include these in your everyday workday and become more of an industrial athlete in your workplace. So I encourage you to leave some comments below. Let me know what you think of this, or if there's something that I've forgotten, please, by all means, let me know. We'll talk to you soon. Safety Simon says, be safe and be well.